Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna be talking about my beef with Bitwig. So I know I did that satire, like, set of videos about like why this DAW sucks, this one, that was fun. But they were just jokes, obviously, if you couldn't tell by the way I was talking, or you just didn't read the description, or if you just don't care. So I'm actually gonna do a video on like, not really like why I hate Bitwig, but why I'm probably gonna stop using it for like my producing in the future, and more like my beef with Bitwig. So yeah, that'll be interesting, right? Once upon a time, when I started my channel, I thought Bitwig, and it was at that time like the coolest thing. Like, you could do so much in the DAW, and you can do so much in the DAW now. And like, I had great nostalgia. There's stuff on my channel from like a year and a half ago ish, from like when I started. I was doing like little cute tutorials and like producing like pretty neat songs and stuff inside the DAW. And I've still been producing some really good songs in this DAW. But I'm starting to get annoyed with the Bitwig team, and I'm starting to get annoyed with, like, just like updates and stuff that are coming, and just like overall the DAW and like what's happening. Like, because, when I started using the DAW back then, there wasn't a lot of like stability problems for me. I could use the DAW all day, constantly. I was never getting any like, lag, like I wasn't crashing, nothing bad was happening. And then even when I came onto Mac, things were still pretty good. Like, there wasn't too many problems. Everything was running like nice and smooth, because the DAW was just like, it was pretty simple at that time. Now, granted, we have way more features now, and that's great because, everyone wants like, crossfading and shit. Like, this is great. This is like, you can crossfade, you can see the crossfade like at all times. You can change acceleration factors in the crossfade. The audio will adjust even live with it, and we can, do manual compression, where if something's like quieter than the rest of it, you can like turn it up and affect all sorts of things, and you can turn down other things. I do this all the time for vocals. It's like the greatest thing. And I like how the audio will actually change when you do that, because then you can sit here and, view things. There's like so many cool features, new features, the crossfades, all this modular crap is real great and fun to use. What's annoying me is that, like, with every new update, they're trying to add stuff. The updates are coming probably about every 3 months to 4 months. There's like a little beta period, and then they release a new update and they add like a few new features. Cool. So when Bitwig 2 came out, they added the amp, right? And here comes the amp. And the amp is cool idea. You can use it for all sorts of crazy funky stuff, has tons of like presets. But then, like the next update is like bug patch only. And then now this coming update literally adds like nothing except for some like new modulators. So now you can have like a modulator that has like built-in curves and like just silly, and I think that's kind of silly. There's quite a bit of stuff here. What you're like, there's so much shit missing from this DAW that, like, other DAWs have, like, there's the distortion plugin. What'd be nice is like a saturator or like wave shaper, something that's not per se just a distortion with drive, slew, and symmetry. Like, there's not much to do. There's not much like crazy sounds you're going to get in this distortion without just like fucking around with tons of modulation, which is not my favorite thing to do in workflow. Like, I don't want to sit here with the distortion, do layerings, like have a bunch of like LFOs going on just to make like cool sounds. I mostly do all of them in Serum, and I want to just have like, like just a plugin with a bunch of knobs that you just set and forget, not things you have to like actively modulate. And I don't want to be like building devices all the time. Like, there's a multi-band compressor in Ableton, and I talked about making an OTT in here. It's cool that you can do that, However, I shouldn't have to do that. They should already have a multiband compressor in here. And like you had saw in that video, is that the multiband compression in that way does not work the same as it does in the Ableton or even in just the OTT factor. Like, it doesn't work quite the same. Same thing if you're using FabFilter MB. There's just so many better options for multiband compressors than there is for using like multiband effects. I wouldn't say multiband effects is for compressing as much as it would be for like just trying to separate some frequencies so you can distort a high end or like add flanger to certain parts or whatever. And that's annoying. So like, these new updates are not really bringing anything, and it's nothing crazy. It's good for like a lot of people who like that modular stuff of this DAW, and I do love that modular stuff because I talked about this, Ableton or a lot of other DAWs, you can't just like throw down a tool and have it just like pop out like this with an LFO ready to go and have like some amplitude control like right away. And this is great because then I can control volumes of my tracks super easy. I can attach LFOs to my amplitude. You can't do that in Ableton. You'd have to get like LFO tool or something from X4 Records. You can't just have that and I can add ADSR like envelopes to my filters, and that's all great. But I wouldn't say that the direction to go is just to keep adding modular stuff, like adding stuff to just mod, things like parameters in the DAW. Like, there's already quite a bit of ground there. I would say adding devices, some extra features would be much more nice. Like for example, a time stretching at the moment, I would say is like almost complete garbage. Like when you like try to do any sort of time stretching, like it just sounds so bad that like I never use it because there's no reason why I would use this time stretch instead of just going to like Cubase or Ableton to do some pitch adjustments or stretching adjustments, because they do it a little more cleaner. It's not as grainy or whatever, and that's kind of annoying. The sampler is like a weak piece of crap now. Well, I think it's the same as it was before, but like there's no options. You just have envelopes, and then yeah, all your modular capabilities. But like, have you seen like what Reason, for example, just added to their DAW for a sampler? Like, for a DAW that works so heavily with audio and modular stuff, how is like, how did Reason just make that for their DAW, and then like this new next era Bitwig DAW that's all about like modular and sound design, there's not even like a good sampler in it, and there's no pitch, like real good pitch editing stuff. And this is stuff that's actually been like, that's just bugged me since I've gotten this software, I've had a few interactions with the Bitwig team. I've done a project proposal for them. I had one of the head guys like, yeah, this is a great idea. He was interested in the project. He's like, I'll pass it on to some of my colleagues. And then like, I just hear nothing back from them. Like not even any sort of feedback, which I think is quite ridiculous, because as a professional trying to approach a professional group of people to, better like their company and try to create a job for myself, instead of providing feedback and being professional about it, they just kind of dodge it and run away. And then they don't even do anything with it. Like they sort of like, kind of take the idea, try to work with it, and then like they just give up and like it's done. And like no feedback, no communication at all. Like people just like wandering away. Like, it's ridiculous basically. And like they just go silent sometimes, no topics, like they don't talk about anything. The YouTube channel is like dead and useless, which I think is a real shame, because that's like a huge marketing opportunity right there. But like, I guess they just don't really understand that, or just don't care about like, the community stuff or whatever, trying to interact with their followers and in that sort of way. Like, that's my kind of problem there. And it's sad that they just introduced this modeling system, and like I was fine, I wasn't complaining about it, but what I'm complaining about now is the fact that I've paid for my year like 5 months ago, and and like they're just adding updates that don't even matter to me, which then makes me wonder like, well, you know, like I paid to upgrade a Bitwig 2 and then I get my 12 months or whatever. But like my 12 months of upgrades aren't even like doing anything. You're not adding anything to the software for me, and that's like really annoying. I want things to be added to the software that I'm actually going to use. I don't want like complex macros being added to the DAW, because like that doesn't even make sense for actual production. It's just sound design and modular, like just like macroing stuff. Like that's not gonna change like someone from being like, you know, a producer to now being this massively innovative person who makes like sweet next generation music. That's not gonna happen by making a special type of macro knob. Like that doesn't matter. They still don't have an LFO that you can like draw and like the software will follow. But then they're adding these advanced like, you know, macro knobs that have built-in like acceleration values, similar to how I'd be like if I were to go inside of Serum, and then, you know, I would be like, I want this curve to modulate that. So like the more I apply to this, when I apply, it's not really doing anything. But then right at the end, it will sweep up or whatever. So you can basically have off, on, you know? That's basically what they've done. Like, that's what they're kind of like adding with the macros from what I've seen from the beta so far. And it's like silly that, you know, that's kind of a thing, because, oops, like that shouldn't be a thing really. And I just want to see more devices. Like there's so much catching up they could do. There's no ping pong delay in the software. You can't make a ping pong delay in the software without like, you would have to use like audio side chains, and every time you'd load up your little delay plugin, you would have to like select the track it's on, so that way it's like you prioritize the left, and every time the right plays, it mutes like the other side, or vice versa, or whatever. So you could get like an actual ping pong sound, but like you just can't do it in any sort of like proper way, you know. And it's so simple. Like I just don't understand why there's no ping pong delay. Like, you know, it's like something tiny, but like the delay systems already in place are nice. There's no ping pong delay. The EQ, it's nice. It looks nice. I like the way it looks. It's still garbage, you know. Like when they made the EQ, what they should have thought about right away is like, you're not going to get any precision out of this EQ here unless I'm going to like, you know, zoom in and like do this every time I want to use this EQ. There's no precision that's like being done in here. In Ableton, you can double click it and you can like full screen it, have a nice EQ, and that's great. Fantastic. There's 5 bands. That's okay. Not a big deal. You know, they could add an extra 3. There's like, you know, and would it be that hard? Like, that's the thing. Like, you know, they're just putting their efforts in like weird places. They like, they're not finding the balance between being innovative and adding like actual content, I don't think. Bitwig 2 was a nice, like, you know, it added a few features that people were like, oh yeah, holy shit, like this is great. This is how other DAWs work. This is great workflow. Like the way the crossfades work in this DAW is like my favorite out of every DAW. Like you just grab the corner, drag, and this. It's like the best. It's like Cubase almost, except in Cubase you have to like double click and then it's like apply a curve, which I think is stupid. But this works, and that works great. Cool. But then, you know, they don't have any like, you know, you can't like full screen the EQ. They don't have any like lane stuff. Like, you know, they have an automation lane. They should have one for this that does note lanes as well, and like audio lanes. That way, if you're doing recordings, it just compiles them. If you're doing MIDI takes, it'll just keep compiling your MIDI notes underneath each other every time you do a loop. Or you can like have one track, and instead of having to make another track and then like do some funky stuff with like some routing with a note receiver, you can just be like, this is my track, open up my note lane. I have different MIDIs. Maybe one's for chords, one's for like a melody, and it's for a piano, and it's just, it can be tucked away in my track. Stuff like that. So I don't understand why time is being wasted on like making just new macros when like there's really cool shit they could be doing that would make a lot of other users come to this DAW, not just like support the only users they have and like their requests or what they want to do, and like just adding these new macros. I think that's important. But at the same time, the DAW is still too underdeveloped to be like messing around with that sort of stuff because it's missing so much shit. Like the only plugins I use out of here are like I actually use quite a bit of them, but like the compressor, reverb, delay, EQ, I don't do any like advanced EQing with anything in here. This is like I'll probably do something like this and like this or something with this EQ, but I'll never, open up like FabFilter Pro Q and get one of those like those crazy like things you see on like the internet where people are like making the craziest little like EQs in here. Like nothing like that is ever happening like inside of the EQ5 in this DAW. Maybe it would be if I could full screen it so I can actually see what I'm doing. That would be really nice. Yeah, like, and I mean, like, if this DAW isn't too friendly to work with like raw audio in this way when you want to do pitching, like it basically has to be made in that certain pitch. I don't really like that. So you can't really do a lot of audio stuff. Like if I just want to throw in like a quick, like if I'm working at like 140, say, right? And I just want to throw in like a cool little break beat or something. I go try throwing my break beat and I pitch it down. The quality is basically like just ruined. It's at 86. It's supposed to be at 172. It's been like completely ruined when like, in Ableton will still mess it up a little bit, but it stands like a much better chance at this sort of stuff being done. Like it just doesn't do it as poorly, and there's things that need to be fixed and worked on, but that's just not addressed. And, I don't know why not. A few complaints I have is like how weird the grid is when you're dragging stuff. It's like a little too snappy. I feel like there's a bit of like slowness in here with like, it doesn't feel like a fluid movement when I drag around MIDI clips in a big project. In an empty one, sure. But when I'm working on big projects, I'm trying to do stuff, the DAW just doesn't perform well on big projects. Like, there is one project I'm working on right now, and basically I'll play like the build and then the drop comes, and all the like serums will come in like late for like, there's no latency on them, but they just come in late, and the LFOs and everything are inside the serum are all messed up, out of time, and everything just sounds crazy bad for like the first few seconds, and then it fixes itself. But then if I start like on the drop, everything's fine. If I start a little bit like at the end of the build to the drop, everything's fine. But if I'm like just trying to play my song through, it gets to the drop, everything's like broken, basically. Sometimes when I bounce audio, they come out with audio information, but they don't play audio. If I do anything, like if I slightly move the clip or like I scroll, if I do anything, it doesn't work. I tried to bounce out stems the other day. I did it correctly. I did it multiple times. I have my track selected. I bounced them. Over half of the stems are just empty for no reason. I don't have any mastering on. Nothing crazy's happening. The DAW is not bouncing all my stems. I don't understand why, and it's annoying. The DAW takes a long time to load up. It doesn't crash a lot, but the audio engine sure crashes a lot. If you're trying to switch between projects, if you switch between a project, it basically turns off the previous project's audio engine, and you have to click again for it to turn on the next one. But when it's turning off the previous engine, it just always crashes. It's not really a big deal, but like that's just silly. The other day, I walked away from my computer for like, I usually leave my computer on. I have an iMac. I don't feel the need to turn my iMac off nearly as much as I would like a Windows PC, because like, it just goes to sleep or whatever. It's not like the fans are going or anything, so it's fine. But I usually leave this on overnight, and then I'll come back and then I'll start working on music or whatever while I sit here and play games. And then like the one day, I'm just sitting here kind of working on some music, and then I decided to play like a few matches of like Halo Wars, and I come back and probably like an hour or two later, and I start trying to play my music, and there's just like electronic static like in a bunch of weird tracks. My samples out of my drum machines aren't playing. They're there, but they're not playing. The DAW has like adjusted my parameters of like reverbs and delays, but it actually hasn't. It just plays like it has, but the controls are still the same. And then it just breaks and it just plays a buzzing sound. And then I have to and I can command Q like Bitwig just fine, but like the audio engine is just broken. And from what I know, you can't even turn it off anymore, I don't think. So like I shouldn't have to do that at all, and I think that's really, really annoying. That's kind of like, I mean, I guess my only real beef with this thing right now. I don't think I'm going to be using this DAW much more in the future for like professional producing. There's no like real no real inclination for me to be doing this. I'd rather be like, I fucking hate the workflow of FL Studio, and I'm not a fan of like Ableton, even though it is very similar in a lot of ways. It has a lot of the features that I want, like in terms of plugins, but I think I might actually just probably switch to Reason to do my stuff in. I can talk about why maybe in the future, but with the stuff I'm experiencing with Bitwig right now, and just making music in it, I'm getting, really annoyed, and I'm soon going to be doing this sort of stuff for like, I'm going to be making music and making money off of it and being on a label. So like if I'm going to be doing a job like that, I can't just be like messing around in a DAW that gets really dysfunctional when you get big projects happening and, like just nothing's working and it's really annoying. And one thing that bugs me a lot too, for a DAW that lets you bounce in place, like the way it does, which is one of the coolest features, why doesn't it let you save the MIDI? Why does it just disappear? I don't understand. Like, can it not, like, really? There's nothing, like at all. That's what I was saying about the note lanes. If I have MIDI, I have stuff drawn in. Why, if I click bounce in place, it should like replace this with audio and then stick this in a MIDI lane in the hybrid track or whatever that I've now made and just like mute it. Like just mute it and just stick it there. Because if not, what I do every time is I have to do bounce in place and then I just mute this track and then I have to move on and then I'm just making up room. I've never ever used this bounce in place unless I'm trying to like fix up some audio. When I use bounce in place, 50% of the time the audio again doesn't play for whatever reason. So I don't like the point is just gone in that to me because like it doesn't save the MIDI. And I understand there's the whole, you commit to it and you commit to the losing MIDI part. But like, why? Like, that's not intuitive. If I have a bunch of MIDI and I'm like, okay, this track's being a leggy piece of shit, I'm going to bounce it in place. And then like, though I know that's not the solution for fixing lag, it certainly does help if you're using Serum and you're using a bunch of just stock effects and like they go to sleep when you're not using them and they don't take any CPU like at all to begin with. So like, if I bounce in place, then I'm just running some effects that are like paper, and then that still works. And you can still have some control over your controls, like if you want to adjust things, because maybe you don't need to adjust the sound, you just need to do some little mixing things. But you can't do that if you have a bunch of bounce tracks and you need to like delete them all and you need to like go through them again when they're in the MIDI form. And then say you want to change notes in the future because you decide, oh, hey, I don't like that. So like what? Am I going to be just loading the shit out of this clip launcher on the right and naming everything? That's not a workflow enhancement, really. Like if I'm just saving tons of MIDI and then I have to go search through it and be like, maybe I name like something ARP and then I have to like ARP 1, ARP 2, and they're all from different songs. Like the naming, I would have to name forever. Like, and then like, go save my stupid clip and like, it would just take forever. So that's not intuitive, in my opinion. And it's silly. I'm sure I could complain about a few more things, but I'm not sure off the top of my head until they actually happen what it is that, is driving me away from this DAW. I mean, I can still do stuff in this DAW, but like, you know, for YouTube and stuff. It's a shame though that my, you know, I built my YouTube off of this DAW back when I like just totally loved this DAW, had no wavering loyalty to this DAW. I was like, I love this. I was like, I just basically got this DAW, and then I just like deleted FL Studio off my like Mac and like my Windows computer, and I was like, I have to force myself to use this DAW until I love it, because I liked the idea. I liked how it looked. It looked so cool compared to like anything I had seen. You know, it was like the DAW for me. It had custom hotkeys, all sorts of things. And the more I use it, the more it becomes not the DAW for me, because they're just going in the opposite direction of what I think matters in this DAW. And it's really fucking annoying. So like maybe that's all I've got to say about this at the moment. People are gonna dislike the shit out of this video, or like, I don't really care. I mean, you know, that's fine. So that's just my honest complaints about this DAW. I don't hate this DAW. I still have some kind like really important projects going on inside this DAW right now, but I'm probably gonna have to finish them in this DAW. I guess we'll see what happens, but it's a shame. And I think maybe in the future, maybe I'll return to it, but I think I'm definitely gonna go with a DAW that has much more frequent updates than this. Like, it just doesn't look good when, you know, you introduce this like this great pricing system that you have in your head, and you're like, updates, and then you have like, you know, a company like Reason. Like, let's start with that first. You have a company like Reason where every like 6 to 4 months they're like going up like half a number, where here it's been 6 months and we've gone up 0.1, 2, and we're on 3 right now. And that's probably going to continue at least another 4 more times before we make Bitwig 3. And then, like, that's like a full year, where by that time, you know, in a year's time in, like, Reason, they added, like, chord generator, ARPs, whole workflow enhancements, built-in pitch correcting, like basically Melodyne built in. They added, like, just stupendous shit in, like, and then, like, in a year. And then from within a year from doing that, then they're like, VSTs and Reason. And then like 4 months later, they're like, oh, hey, we made a new built-in granular sampler synthesizer. And we've got a new version of Serum meant for Reason, where you can basically do everything in Serum, but it's built in Reason, and it's red, and it's totally different. And like, and then they just add like high quality pianos built into their DAW. Whole tons of like high quality like percussion and like, you know, sound libraries, like from basically, it sound like they could come from Contact. And it's like, yep, this is just built in with the DAW, comes with. And it's like, they do all this within like a year and a half. And then I had this DAW for about a year and a half, 2 years before Bitwig 2 even came out. And like nothing was happening in this DAW. Like, you know, in Bitwig 2, was it that astronomical of like a creation? Was it like, oh my god? Like, not really. Like, it was just fun. It was like, oh, it's new, everything looks different, there's some cool new features, more colors. If you think about the amount of fucking time that Bitwig was just chilling, as it was back in the day when I started this channel, and then Bitwig 2 came out, like, that's really slow. Ableton has this problem too. I feel like that DAW is just never being upgraded. I feel like I've had Ableton 9.3 for like, I feel like I've had that for like 5 years or something. Like, I just feel like it never moves. And this DAW is kind of turning into the same thing, which is not what was, you know, kind of promised when we started paying all this fucking money per month, per year to like get these updates. And I know, pay when you think the update's worth it, but you know, a DAW like Reason, I think just about every update or two is worth like the 129 euros. And I'm just not seeing that with this for the higher price that is being charged. And then look at FL Studio. They don't even charge their people. And I know this is an unfair comparison because, you know, they're just making bank. They get 30,000 demo downloads a day and more. They get so many purchases every day. So many people torrent their shit and they know that and they don't care. And they know because, like, you know, everyone torrents it. It's easy to torrent. That means it builds this name for them. When you have a DAW that's like untorrentable, is it really, that doesn't make it popular, like, does it? I'm not saying Bitwig's untorrentable or anything, but like, if you think about it that way, if something's like, if you can torrent it, it makes it popular because a lot of people are poor and they don't want to pay for software. There's a lot of DJs who will buy their hardware but don't want to pay for their software. And if you look at like FL Studio, they have the worst license system like ever. I swear I have given my license registry key to like 7 people and like just no questions asked. And it's like crazy because it's like the all plug-in bundle. It's like, it's just all their shit. And I've just given it to some friends who like, you know, like they've bought FL, but they want to use like Harmor, and they have like bought the one version, but it's not the high enough version to get Harmor. And like, you know, I give them some like reg keys or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, you can use this, like people I'm friends with, and then like there's just no problem. I have one person who isn't me on my registry here, but that's legit. I can't get shit for that. It's my key. I can have 3 computers. I'm allowed to give it to like one other friend if I want. The point is I can still only have 3 keys. So at the end of the day, I need my laptop and my iMac. And if I have any other device, then I need the 3rd one. So my friend can't be on it. So like, that's why FL is so popular, and that's why they make so much money, and that's why they don't charge anyone when they make updates, and they update the shit out of their DAW. They've added more content to their DAW like within this year in multiple updates than Bitwig has done over like 2 years with like one big update, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Like they added their 3rd delay plugin. There's like pattern pickers, things that like maximize the workflow of that DAW while still being like insanely useful to people who don't use that type of workflow. Some people don't make a separate pattern for every single thing. Some people just use that one pattern. So that's not going to help them too much. However, it encourages them to like, you know, use the separate pattern ability because now they can like bounce patterns to audio without it like not bouncing actual audio. And there's all these things you can do now. And there's like tons of shit being added. And they're not charging anyone for it. And it's like crazy. And, you know, Cubase and Pro Tools are kind of the broken softwares that don't give much with every update they add. What's nice about them is I guess their updates are a little more consistent, but it's been almost a year and there's been like no news from Cubase in terms of like new content coming. And then again, to be fair, that DAW is basically maxed out. There's nothing you can really add to that DAW aside from like workflow at that point or adding sounds and stuff. And that's like they could add different like workflow views. Like maybe they make it look like Bitwig, but it's still Cubase and you can like use it like Bitwig, and like that stuff DAWs I guess could do, but at that point, but like those 2 DAWs are kind of like so complete that they can't do anything anymore. So why is it that these 2 super complete DAWs that don't update often have the same like updating rate as like Bitwig, and like Bitwig has like the same value in an update as they do, which is not very much. Yeah, it's silly. I'm definitely still gonna do some stuff with Bitwig. I have some songs to finish if I don't decide to transfer them over to, you know, like Reason or something. I just ordered like the little box set of Reason 9 so I can get the Reason 10 for free. And I'm really looking forward to that, and I really look forward to making music in that software every time I open it. But nowadays when I open Bitwig, it's just like it's just a routine. It's like routine, and then I'm just like, yep, here comes the lag, and then projects just like slow down. And I'll open a project right now, and we can see how like I can't even move my screen when it's like playing. All right, this bugs me a lot, and I understand why. I'm using a Mac. I don't have the world's best graphics card. It's like a NVIDIA. It's good for a Mac, right? It's a really good one for a Mac, and that's it. It's like an AMD like 6000 or some shit. Like it's not NVIDIA like GTX 1080. which is one of the reasons, like, maybe I'll switch over to a Windows PC so I can scroll through my DAWs while keeping 60 frames per second, because that's all graphics card. It's not the DAW's fault per se. But if I, like, you know, I'm just sitting here playing stuff, and let's go find like a track with like a lot of moving shit, like.
I dream of you every night. Don't know if it's right. I'll follow my heart right from the start. I'll always keep coming back. There's nothing left to do. I'm so addicted to you.
So as you might have seen, just me scrolling through the project, just trying to work, like things are just lagging, like I'm just trying to zoom in on some stuff. I'm not even playing anything, man. I try to zoom in, the DAW just freezes. And it doesn't matter that I'm recording. This happens to me when I'm not. And like, I just want to zoom in, dude. Like, I'm not trying to do anything crazy. I'm just trying to zoom in. And like, you need to be able to navigate through your projects fast, right? But you can't do that without, like, it just freezing sometimes. Like, I want to be up here, now I need to be down here and do stuff. Like, it should work like this smoothly, you know? If I need to zoom in on something, it should just zoom in. But there's all this lag for no reason. And, like, it's silly. Silly, silly, silly. You know, I just want to work on my song, and that's it. Yeah. I don't know. And like for a lot of these crashes as well, like for example, when I import crashes and stuff, I have to like basically go out of my way to make sure that everything's raw, because if it's not raw, what's going to end up happening is that it's going to stretch them and make them sound like bad, right? So if I import you know, some sort of crash. So here's my crash. I've just freshly imported. Just the pitch algorithm is just so fucking bad. You know, that let's see. What was the BPM that it was at here? Come on, open the info panel. 131, we're at 174, and I play it. It's like distorted, it's grained, it doesn't sound anything like this. It gets ruined. Something a little cleaner, it gets ruined. And that stuff makes difference when you're making music and you're trying to make it sound like clean and professional, and there's just like that grainy shit in your cymbals because it doesn't sound natural, and like it's like, oh well, that's not cool. Like, it doesn't have like that sweet reverb tones, because the sweet reverb tones now has a bit of grain in it. So now I have to come in here, make sure it's raw. I have to like readjust shit, and like I could just come into the settings, obviously, and the behavior here, change this, so that way it's like always raw. So use raw audio if sample is like blank. So like anything now is going to be raw. Cool. Bitwig has the shittiest tempo detection I've ever seen when it picks up audio files. You know, I can export a project in Bitwig, all the stems, get everything working, put it back into Bitwig, and it doesn't even know what half of the BPMs of those audio files just put back in that were exported out of Bitwig. Again, it's silly. There's like a lot of small stuff that like really like kills this DAW from being useful as much now as it was, you know, yeah. As an evolving artist, as a new artist who's like anyone, this isn't, I'm not just talking about me as some sort of master artist, but as like anyone who's like evolving, you know, trying to work on their sound, trying to make a name for themselves, always trying new shit, but also, you know, you want to stay consistent to a point. I don't think this DAW is helping this at a point. Like, staying in this DAW, you're going to be kind of stuck with all the same stuff for a long time. Whereas if, you know, if you're in different DAWs, it might evolve a bit faster because, you know, they're adding all these new toys and stuff that make big enhancements to your workflow. Where, you know, this DAW is just not adding huge advancements to your workflow. It's just adding like a macro and is some tiny stuff like, and then they, you know, they go add time shift modulator, sort of, not a modulator, but a device, and it's added in as an actual device. Now this is cool because you can put it between, you know, like your EQ and whatever. So this processing's done, and this processing is done later. Can't think of actually any uses that's going to have, because like at what point am I sitting there like, oh, you know, it'd be cool is if the sound was delayed by a second and then compressed and then reverbed or something. Like reverbs have pre-delays, delays have pre-delays, they have offsets or whatever, that you could kind of get something like that with. But like at no point do you need to like, you know, be throwing down time shift differences like throughout the thing. And like that's me saying this for my workflow, which is quite an interesting workflow. But like I'm not an idiot. I have like a solid workflow. So if I can't find a way to use that, I'm gonna guarantee a lot of people also don't really find a way to use that other than sticking it at the start of your track to delay your track. Like what I would use that for, only use that for, is to come over to my sidechain channel and add a premature sidechain section. So then the compressor, so I could add it before the compressor. So what happens is the audio comes in, the compressor sidechains it, and then I like shift it back. So when I hear the audio actually being played back, what happens is I the click that's in all sidechain compression when using a compressor instead of like an actual envelope, the click that's there from the audio just disappearing is gone. Similarly, you could just use look ahead as well to remove this, but like, you know, you could do that in Ableton all the time. I add like just a tiny bit of delay to the track that my side, like all my audio is going through. So in that way, the compressor is like side chaining it, and then everything that's not going through is still on time. However, you don't hear the click anymore. So that way my kicks and stuff are all still played. I don't affect those. It's just the audio. So it just shifts back the audio and all the sidechain moments just back slightly. So the click happens like not before, but like it smoothly happens just a little bit before the kicks. There's like a tiny amount of silence before the kick, which makes it sound cool. And at the same time, the click is gone now. And that's the only use for that. And that was like the only new thing they added. Maybe we could just go talk about that right now. All right, so here's everything that came from 2.2. The sample and hold modulator. Again, I can't find a use for that. Ableton Link support. That's cool. There's a new type of display profile for people who use touchscreen, which is a very select few people who use this DAW. You know, people who just happen to have those devices or have money to afford like a modular setup where they're using touchscreen Bitwig. And people are always like, touchscreen is the future of making music. And I mean, I partially agree with that, but at the same time, I kind of think it's bullshit because, you know, people can work pretty fast with a mouse and typing in values and stuff. Like, when I'm working full speed in Bitwig, shit's going down fast. I'm using hotkeys. clicking. How are my two fingers supposed to do that? I'm gonna have to press on the screen and then drag. Like, you have to kind of wait. Like, there's delays. You can't just like, time everything in your head and do it. And I don't think it would come out as fast. I agree though that it would be pretty fast if you were to do touchscreen, and that would be an amazing way to work, especially for kids in making music, or for older people or whatever. But for like the average, like middle-aged person, young person, I mean, a mouse and keyboard is fine. I like those a lot. I would never imagine myself wanting to do a ton of touchscreen stuff. Maybe some people do. Audio rate modulator, quantize modulator, polynom modulator. Like, look at all these modulators that I'm never going to use, for example. Engine crash sometimes when switching projects. I tested the beta, did not fix that at all. Engine crash when connecting engine to a project that contains a bypassed hardware instrument. Note modulators still don't affect notes before they play. When moving multiple notes with the same key, blah, blah, blah. Existing notes might get truncated in some cases. I don't even know what this is. I've never experienced problems with moving stuff up and down or left and right. Saving presets, sampler not key tracking correctly. Delete button works like backspace and text editor. Okay, that just sounds annoying. Bounce in place in freezes when external clock is being received. There's like, this improved comb filter can go down to 20 hertz. Smooth glide for the step sequencer. Better support for the resizing of plugin windows. Support DPI aware plugins. Remember the plugin window position. Blah, 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 blah. Add single trigger option to the ADSR modulators. Useful only in mono mode. Update plugin window title real time. Scripting API. Remember samples of blah, blah, blah. Synchronize song tempo from like, I don't even understand like what's happening. Like, there's nothing here. There's nothing here to be called like an improvement. Like, look, like, there's nothing here. There's no content. There's no real content. The content's over here up at the new. There's some fixed stuff, which people have probably been being bugged about for the longest time. And there's the improved stuff, which isn't really... What is an improvement to? It's just a fix, really. Like, this is stuff that just should have been there. And, like, what? And, like, obviously, it's just... Maybe it's just me, but, like... And there's a decent-sized list here, for Bitwig 2.1. And all the beta stuff that was done. I think that's for 0.2, or actually, no, this might just be for the betas. Here, it's at the bottom. There's like a whole ton of shit added or whatever, but, yeah, I don't know. Just not into it, and I wanted to rant about it, about equally as hard as I had ranted about why it was amazing about a year ago, and why I had liked it so much when it was a year ago, and it's interesting to see that my opinion is almost completely the other way around about a year and a half later, after they released their giant content update. It's, I mean, the DAW was fine the way it was. The new stuff didn't mess with anything. What messed with everything was making all these promises and then not fulfilling them. You're not adding content to your DAW. This is really sad. Like, I don't understand. Just try to get to the same playing field. And you need to incorporate a little bit of like stuff to make the DAW unique, but you need to get to the same playing field. I have no idea what's in your like hopper for the future, so I don't know if you have giant plans and Bitwig 3 is coming out next month, but like basically Bitwig 3 has to be like fucking amazing at this point because you're falling behind like in the other competition. You are kind of updating as fast as they are, but just think about what they're adding and what you're not. I don't know if you're super understaffed. Maybe you shouldn't just ignore people who like offer to work for you. So like, it's nothing but like their own fault that this is happening if they are understaffed or if there are like whatever. There should be no financial problems considering how much you're overcharging people for like what clearly is bare minimum effort. So like I don't know what the fuck's happening, but like at this point I'm pretty done with this DAW, pretty frustrated with the stuff I, had to deal with again, and I'm like just personally like not into it and like not really gonna support it anymore. Uh, you know, I'm kind of they don't support me, so I'm not gonna support them. I feel like they're not supporting a lot of people, and if something's not supporting you, usually you don't support it back. That's what's called a toxic relationship. They teach us about that in high school. Um, yeah. So yeah, I'm probably not going to be using this DAW for professional production anymore because it's just so clunky and it's like it's not moving anywhere. And I don't want to be a part of the future that I don't want to be part of a slow future. I want to be part of a fast future. So that's where I'm going to be going. I want to be up to date with all these new features, and I'm not going to get rid of my Bitwig license. Maybe Bitwig 3 or 4 will blow my fucking mind, and I'll like leave Reason or something. But then at this rate, the amount of content Reason would have had added by then would have just blown this DAW out of like just gone. So like, yeah, life, controversy, hard stuff. Cool. Um, I know at least one or two guys off the Bitwig team, I think, actively watch my videos, and I'm sorry if you feel offended, but I mean, I don't know, I'll just understand this from some sort of consumer point of view. This is a point of view that I have, and I know for a fact is not just me. So you can't deny the realism behind what I am saying, and like there are always going to be defending points, and there's already great things about this DAW, as I had stated many times, and I defend this DAW all the fucking time from tons of people, and I'm always encouraging people to use this DAW. However, I don't encourage new people to use this DAW, but I mean, someone who's an experienced producer with the VST library, yeah, get Bitwig. It'll change the way you think about music, right? And that's great. With so many great factors, and I'm not trying to offend the Bitwig team, but this is a consumer point of view. And I'm also not very impressed with, the amount of effort I put into a project proposal and then how it just gets like slid off the table after I already had some like people like, yeah, this is fucking great. I already had like a little chunk of the Bitwig community like, this is great. And like I had someone off the team, one of the big guys, like, this is great. And then he hands it on to some of his coworkers, and then they're like, and then like no feedback. So like, if I put in this effort to like talk to you guys and do this, you should be doing it back to me as well. It's very unprofessional to just ignore someone who's approaching you professionally, who's put in the time to support you and to help better the future of this software, and then you just ignore it completely with no feedback. There was no suggestions. There was no like, I like the general idea. Maybe we could go this direction. There was like none of that. No feedback whatsoever. Completely fucking useless. Waste of my time. And it's just frustrating. You wasted my time in that matter. You're now wasting my time when I'm using this DAW and paying for your upgrades, and you're doing that to a lot of other people too. And that's how I feel currently about the software. I'm not wanting to use the software or saying anything because I'm offended over that stuff, like about you not talking back to me, though it doesn't help. However, the software itself is just not cutting it. And I've said that so many times this video. You're not staying up to date with what your competition is. You're not making good use of whatever it is money you're getting, the projections you're getting from, this sort of thing. You're not even making use of your YouTube channel. You're pretty dead on Twitter sometimes. Like there's like not a lot of engagement in like a community from what I've seen. Following you on Twitter, following you on YouTube. I'm in the unofficial Bitwig group. There's like just like the unofficial Bitwig group is just dead sometimes. There's no one there. There's not a lot of shit going down. There's a lot of people in the Bitwig group complaining about the beta stuff. About like, oh, why are they adding this? Why did this just stop working? They try to open a torrented plugin, it doesn't work, and it's like, that's a regression, like shit like that. Yeah, I don't know. When you guys figure out what you're doing, maybe I'll come back. But as of now, I'm going to go on to, you know, a different software that knows what they want to do, and they do it like monthly, and they get it done and it comes out. So yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.